Welcome everyone tuning in. My name is CatmasterOP, and today we're doing a live stream video because there's some people in chat who don't know about the vendor recipe system yet, and it brought to my awareness that this needs a little bit of explaining, a little bit of context. So basically, this page on the Path of Exile gamepedia.com I recommend to every new player, because this is really essential information, especially if you want to play the game in solo self-found. Now there's a lot of information in this, and not all of this is very relevant for what I want to say. But in general, this page gives you an overview of what you get back from the vendor when you give a certain item, or like whatever you can put into the vendor trade screen. How you can predict the outcome. Now there's actually very simple results, like single items with mods. You know, every mod can have a certain result. Like you see here, a magic unidentified item gives transmutation shards, rare unidentified, more transmutation shards. There's also alteration shards for the different mods. There's different amounts of those. An item with 6 affixes gives you an orb of augmentation, but you know, keep in mind it has to be identified, otherwise who knows how many it does have. And there's alch shards and so on. I don't want to go into this. What I want to talk about today is, most importantly, equipment, basic item production, crafting. Because there is really handy recipes that I want to go into, and for this purpose I already prepared a little bit, so got an inventory full of stuff that we're gonna put into the screen, because I think that's better than me reading out the stuff from the page, right? So you have iron rings, which give flat physical damage to attacks implicitly. You can vendor iron rings, doesn't matter which rarity, with a red, green or a blue gem, or fire, lightning, or cold resist rings. Now, the roll on the ring will depend on the item that you put in there. I don't know whether it differs with the ring, but this dual strike gem gives me 28% implicit. This blade vortex would give me 24% implicit. Yeah, I think it's determined by the gem. Probably you can look that up on the vendor recipe system page. But you can make a lightning resist ring very early. And say you're playing a lightning skill like arc or spark for leveling, which some people may think that's a good idea. And for that purpose, you can pick up a wand that does have the color setup that you want on the 3 linked sockets, and vendor that one with the topaz ring that you made, right? But it has to be blue, so if it's not blue yet, you have to transmute it. And you need 1 alteration. So the blue wand, an orb of alteration, and the topaz ring, and you will get a +1 to level of socketed lightning gems wand. It is the same item level base, and it has the same sockets. The sockets are not shown, but you see once I complete this trade that it will be exactly the same implicit value. Actually no, the implicit value changes as well. It's as if I divide it. But it will keep the same sockets, right? We got a +1 level of socketed lightning gems. This is really good for leveling, especially early league and solo self-found, when you don't have twink gear. But sometimes you're not playing a spellcaster, right? Sometimes you're playing an attacker, and then you could do a recipe that many people do, and that's a little bit different, but it follows the same basic idea. You could do a blue or a yellow rustic sash with that, but you vendor your weapon. This works with any weapon, 2-handed, 1-handed, you name it. Works with bows, it works with daggers, and probably with fishing rods as well. I haven't tried with fishing rods yet. So whetstone plus belt plus sword gives you a sword with the heavy prefix. In case of the blue rustic sash, in case of the yellow rustic sash, it's the serrated prefix. Now, again, different items will give you different results. So this elegant sword gives me 55 roll, where this gives me a 62. Also keep in mind that for physical weapons, oftentimes not for the first items that you make, but around mid-game, you kind of want 20% quality. In order to bring a white item to 20% quality with whetstones, you only need 4 whetstones because each of them increases the quality by 5%. So what I wanted to say is just do that before you craft the weapon. Obviously, after you're done crafting the weapon, and if you have enough crafting currency, you can still continue crafting. Oh wait, this is the low one? 62. We'll take that, and then you can still augment it. Increase damage with bleeding, that's pretty much useless, but you could have gotten attack speed or crit chance. The best one is probably attack speed. Now, you don't want to continue crafting this in the early game, say until level 50, 60, 70, but later on, if you have Regal Orbs to spare, you can then use a Regal Orb on this, and now we got the attack speed. Now, what's better about this than just getting the attack speed is now it's rare and you can actually use your master crafting benches, assuming you have the master appropriately leveled, to add a flat fizz, which will then be increased by the increased fizz, which would make it a very, very good leveling weapon. But keep in mind when you do this that the mods have level requirements, so they will raise the level requirement of your item if that is lower. Meaning, I'm pretty sure that if you craft this, this is not the level requirement for your character, but the level requirement that it puts on your character is actually 20% lower. So we'll craft this one just to see. Yeah, this would have raised the level requirement to 24. It's 20% lower than the level here. I'm not sure, but it does make sense in some way. I'm just not prepared to explain that right now. But yeah, that's just what I wanted to share here. Now, sometimes you're playing a crit caster, you can't do the +1 to level of socketed elemental gems on daggers. In fact, you can only do that on wands and scepters and no other weapons. But with daggers, if you prefer melee weapons, because you could use whirling blades or shield charge if you use 1 plus a shield, then you can do a recipe that's very similar to this one with chain belts. You still need whetstones for that, and you need either a blue or a yellow chain belt.
You have a question?
Which obviously you don't have to craft them with transmutes and alks. I'm just doing this for the sake of the video. If you want to save your currency, you obviously want to open your eyes and pick them up from the ground, right? You can then vendor your dagger base. Also make sure it doesn't have shitty sockets, right? You want to get the one with the socket setup that you want. And the whetstone, and this will then give you a dagger with spell damage. And again, the tier will be higher if you use a higher rarity belt. Here you don't want to put quality, because quality only increases the local physical damage. Just to keep in mind there, quality is really only if you attack with the weapon itself. If you use an attack skill that uses the weapon, then you want quality on the weapon. Is there anything else I wanted to show? No, I think that sums it up. 4 recipes that I think are very, very important and very interesting for new players and old players alike. Anyway, that's it. YouTube videos are best when they're kept short. If you want to see more Catmaster content, there will be more. You can subscribe to the channel. You can tick this stupid bell that you need to tick in order to be notified about every video. But you can also see me live on stream at twitch.tv/CatmasterOP, where I stream Path of Exile daily. I hope you're having a nice day, and see you around.